So welcome back. So if you haven't been following along, we are testing out shock absorbing hitches with a tremendous amount of weight. 2,000 pounds of tongue weight on this trailer, and it's a lot of weight even for the F450. But we are trying 4 different brands: Shocker, GENY, Bulletproof, and CURT. Currently, we've already tested Shocker as well as GENY. So if you haven't watched those videos, go back and check them out. I'm gathering as much information as I can to try to give you the most comprehensive evaluation of how I feel these hitches impact towing performance. So it's really cool to kind of see how they work. And I'm going to be honest with you, between Shocker and GENY, it's pretty dang close. To me, it feels very, very similar. They both do a very good job of taking the really, really sharpest of impacts out, even though, you know, for traditional towing, conventional towing, I don't know if it's going to be like game-changing for most people. For me, I probably will just stick with a traditional, conventional, non-shock absorbing hitch because it works well for my application. But today's video, we have Bulletproof in. Now, this is their road suppression system, I think is what they call it, a road suppressor. This is essentially an attachment to a Bulletproof hitch that gives you shock absorption built into the ball mount assembly. So let's take a look at it. Let's see what it's all about. Hang tight. I'll be right back. Okay, so here's the Bulletproof product. I have it on my 2.5-inch shank. I'm using my eTrailer magnetic reducer, which is really, really cool, and it's been working really well. So yeah, what this is essentially a standard Bulletproof hitch. Well, this is the Mega Duty one, or their Extreme Duty. 36,000 pound rating with like 6,000 pounds or 6,500 pounds worth of tongue weight capacity. It's absolutely nuts what this thing is built to be able to withstand. It's not the prettiest hitch on the market. I mean, if you're looking at this and you're trying to compare it against Shocker or GENY, this definitely looks more traditional. I know a lot of folks with like SEMA trucks and things like that will take one of these and paint match it to their truck or put some crazy colors on it. But for me, it's a very, very common looking channel style hitch. That does not mean it's a bad product. I think, in my opinion, that it is definitely one of the best built products you can get on the market, certainly from a capacity perspective. 36,000 pounds is absolutely no joke. That is, to kind of put this in better perspective, that is significantly heavier than a DRV fifth wheel. Even if you look at the actual tongue weight capacity on this thing, it is heavier than any traditional luxury fifth wheel would ever weigh on the pin of your truck. So you're putting all that weight behind your vehicle, which means there aren't going to be a lot of pickup trucks that would ever come to the capacity ratings of this. Actually, there's not a single pickup truck that has the capacity ratings for this. You would never want to put that amount of weight behind a pickup truck. That's probably going to be more for your Super Cs, your big haulers, but yeah, definitely not something on a pickup truck. That said, your 2 pins hold the hitch head assembly in place. This is called the Road Suppressor Dual Ball. It's rated for 22,000 pounds. This is another one of those products like GENY where you want to get the specific one for your towing application. You don't just want to get the heaviest duty version of this, because if you do, the compression pieces right here aren't going to compress if you don't have enough weight sitting on it. Or if you have too much weight, it'll compress too much. So you want to be sure that you get it specifically to the type of weight you're going to be putting on it. In the case of this one, we're going to be right at the max, 2,000 pounds. So we have 2,000 pounds worth of tongue weight that'll transfer over. And I'm really interested in seeing how this works. You have your single pivot point right here in the center, and it just rocks essentially against these 2 pieces of rubber. This one, actually, I think the way they get it in here is they kind of already pre-compress it a little bit. But the powder coating on here is very, very rough. That's probably my biggest gripe against Bulletproof, is their powder coating feels really, really rough. Most people don't seem to care too much about that, but, you know, it's a very expensive hitch, and it just kind of seems interesting to me that they went with that choice of powder coating. That said, has a heck of a reputation, and people tend to love their Bulletproof products. So yeah, we're going to see how this road suppressor works. It's pretty expensive. It's like $300 or $400. So if you're going to get this, you're going to be dumping some coin into it. So let's see if it performs well enough for you to put that type of money into. Anyways, let's get everything hitched up and show you the drop. And when I talk about the drop, again, a lot of weight on the back of this truck. I don't know if I'm resting far enough forward on the ball, but let's see. Yep, it'll go on still. There we go. Watch the truck drop. That's crazy. Yep, we have all the weight on here now. Let's get everything chained up, hitched up, pinned up, connected, and ready to hit the road. And I've talked about this in other videos, but I like to use a little clothes hanger right there, a little metal one. I just cut the hook loop part off, and then I just put it around the top to keep my chains from dragging on the ground. This is one of those areas that you do want to be very careful. You don't want your chains causing sparks. You can actually cause a forest fire, so it's always good to keep your chains from dragging if you can. And we got cameras. We're going to get this thing started, recording, and I'll be gathering information from inside of the truck as well. Okay, so we're going to reset that, start the recorder, and hit the road. This is going to be an interesting one to see because you could tell very clearly from the beginning that it was compressing that bottom piece of rubber. So it's going to be really cool to see how well this one handles those jarring bumps and if there's any issues with it. Then after we do this one, we will remove some weight and we'll throw the CURT in because we're well over the capacity of the CURT from a ton weight perspective. So we don't want to test it like that because if the results don't look good for it, well then that variable is always the reason why the results might have not looked good. And we want to be very fair with all the manufacturers here. Most people, to be honest with you, towing with a hitch like this are not going to be towing over 15,000 pounds. And we got some bumps. Okay, bumps are going to get pretty bad up here in a second. Here's the hard stuff. To be honest with you, this one feels pretty good, to be fair. I mean, it's doing kind of the same thing. It feels like it's taking some of the harshness of it out, at least the worst of it, but, well, you know, it probably feels, to be honest with you, it's doing okay, but there were some bumps right there that it definitely felt like I'm still getting some of those peaks. What I mean by peaks is when you hit a bump, that sharpest edge of it. But it definitely feels as if it's taking a little bit of it out. It's not terrible. It doesn't feel bad. But I'm going to say it doesn't feel any better at this point than a standard conventional hitch. We're going to go down another road here real quick. It'll get a little bit bumpier again. Okay. Doesn't feel terrible. It's going okay, but we're about to hit some bigger bumps here in a second. Definitely doesn't have some of the shock absorption characteristics that both the shocker as well as the GENY have. It's a bit harsher. It's going to be really interesting to see how the CURT feels, Rebellion, because it has a kind of similar technology, except it only hinges in one direction, where this one hinges in two directions. Yeah, I definitely feel it though. This one's a little different. This one is probably, I hate to say it, this is probably my least favorite in terms of what I'm feeling and how I'm feeling it. It definitely feels like it's rocking. terrible. It's just very noticeable. Okay, back on another road that is for the most part pretty smooth. Then we have a couple jarring bumps up here. We're getting back. It's going to be really interesting to see the video footage on this one to see how well it performed. That's Bulletproof for you. Again, so far it's kind of my least favorite in terms of the suspension characteristics and how it's handling the biggest of bumps. Yeah, it's definitely what I would consider to be the least helpful. It did take some of the harshest of harshness out of the ride, but it gave me a bit of a rocking feel that I didn't really like. It felt kind of like a porpoising effect, and it's probably just inherent in the design since it has the ability to move forward and back like this. And it, just like I said, it felt a little less effective than what I got from GENY and what I got from Shocker, because both Shocker and GENY essentially give you vertical support, whereas this one is only really giving you horizontal dampening, and it's a different feel for sure. I like the fact that if you already have a Bulletproof hitch, that you can simply add this to it as an accessory. I just don't particularly know if I would get it as an accessory, only because the way it dampens isn't really a way that I prefer it dampening. That said, you know, when we throw the CURT in here after we offload a little bit of weight, it's going to be interesting to see the difference in how that feels, since that dampens in a very similar fashion, except that it has a single hinge on top and it's going to rock forward and back from the bottom, versus this one rocking and kind of giving you a teeter-totter effect. So it's going to be interesting, but we're going to get this one unhitched. What do you guys think? What do you guys think of the videos? You know, I know that a lot of people have been waiting for these, and they've been wanting to see what my impressions are on these different hitches and if it's worth it. At this point, in my opinion, for me, it's worth it, again, if you're towing a travel trailer or an RV or something that has something delicate inside, maybe a car or a toy hauler. But if you're going to be towing a utility trailer like this, I don't necessarily know if it would make much of a difference to me to have a shock absorbing hitch. Over a super long drive, if I'm towing stuff like this cross country, then any of them will probably help in terms of some, you know, back relief or not transferring as much shock to the vehicle, which is definitely going to be helpful. Of all of them I've tested so far, which is the Shocker HD, the GENY Boss, and the standard GENY, besides the standard GENY, of course, which has no shock absorption built into it, this one is probably so far ranked number 3 in my opinion. But we'll look at the data. We'll see what the data says as well. It may give us some different types of information that opens our eyes to some different facts. Anyways, guys, I sure hope you enjoyed this video. If you haven't had a chance, now's a great time to subscribe, because we have one more hitch that we're going to do a review on. It will be this CURT right here. We may pull out the 16,000-pound GENY Boss, which is a lower capacity GENY, mainly because it's going to compete more directly against this. 16 versus 15,000, and the tongue weights should be about the same in terms of what they're designed for. But yeah, what do you guys think so far? Anyways, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification button. I'd really appreciate it. Leave a comment below. Let me know what your thoughts are. And is this helping you make a determination on the type of hitch you might want for your towing application? Guys, if you haven't had a chance, take a moment, subscribe to the channel, give me a thumbs up. We'll talk to you again very soon.